Salafalava, thank you for joining me today. First, we ask our Heavenly Father, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit to bless this show in with divine wisdom. This is a talk show where we celebrate, debate, question, interview topics that are happening around the whole of the Moana Pacific. Today, we're joined by Professor Afualo Wood Salele, a Samoan economist, academic, and former MP who is a leading voice on education. He holds a PhD in economics and has earned the rare and prestigious title of professor, teaching at the University of Samoa. It's such a pleasure to have you on again on the show again, Professor. Welcome.
Yeah, Tarafa, Mike. It's also a pleasure for me to be on board in your podcast, so that we can, continue to share insights about current affairs in Samoa, and also what's happening around the Pacific and the world. We're living in a very, very different time and era in history. A lot of things are happening, and we can witness that by looking into what is happening to the political landscape here in Samoa. And then on that note, I would like to welcome on board our viewers. And for those who have just joined us, you are more than welcome. And, we must always give thanks to the Lord for sparing this opportunity for us to be able to communicate and exchange ideas with others as well. So on that note,
Thank you, Professor. Man, yes, you're right. Samoa is a little bit. It's a little bit in the shambles at the moment. The political, there's new, the by-elections are coming up, and yeah, it's good. Like we are very. There's a lot of people giving good feedback on your information that you're sharing. They like to hear a Samoan with your background talking English. So thank you again, Professor, for coming on the show. Look, I want to start off with, before we get into the political stuff, I wanted to. There was a big court case that was due for yesterday. That's involving the Prime Minister. The verdict was yet to come out, but then we had seems like another delay. Is this a normal thing to happen that happens in Samoa? Court cases being delayed like this, Professor?
Yeah, there have been quite a few cases like this. I mean, for both you know, the the lands and courts, because now it's going back to where it used to be. And then we have the criminal court. So at the moment, the case which was supposed to be read out by the judge who is responsible for that, all of a sudden it has now been postponed to next week, Friday. And people were really holding they're keeping their fingers crossed of what would come out of yesterday. But unfortunately, but I also thought about it. But we know that, from looking into how the justice system, not just Samoa, but you look at the whole world, including Australia and New Zealand, whenever something like this happens, there's a saying that justice delayed, but it is justice denied. But there has to be some very, very strong reasons why the court, decided to postpone. And I mean, we can only, make our own. Sorry. Yeah, we can make. Yes, yeah, we can make our own thinking towards, whether, what kind of speculation. But the reality is, and I thought about it, and what I have come to, as a non-conclusive remark at this time, that probably there was some, whatever evidences that were not provided, by the opposition. No, this is just me. Were provided by the opposition to the court. Otherwise, that should not happen. Otherwise, it shouldn't happen. Or on the other hand, maybe the judge's decision is probably, I don't know how many pages, so it's like a novel. It's probably a 300-page novel. We can, critique, but at the end of the day, it's good that the court didn't give any justifications of why there was a delay. So that leaves us, all of us, the whole country, and even those who have been following this case very, very seriously, that leave us, in the dark, and we can speculate. A lot of speculations, good, not good, but that's the essence of the Chili's decision. And I hope, whatever comes out next week would be a reward for everyone. But one thing I would like to remind our listeners, that even if it's denied because of the delay, no one, and I repeat that, no one will escape the wrath of God from its judgment,
Yes.
That's one thing, because a lot of mishandled, or we can say that cases that, that were given, the accused were ending up in the wrong end of the law because either it was done deliberately by those who were involved in the case, or evidences were tampered with. And we know that a lot of there were some movies that were made of those in the United States, and even cases in Australia, New Zealand, and even here in Samoa. And that's why there is an appeal process to ensure that the decision will stand as it is, when it comes next week. So expect, whether it's for the opposition or for the plaintiff, we will still expect to have appeal. So that means the show will go on.
The show will go on. It's a, Professor, it's a big case, and I did a video to best explain this case, because I think it's very important to get the context, and I think a lot of people were confused about this case, and I think this is where the media is so important to push out the full story. There was a bit of there's people that have an understanding of different views, but I thought I will read some of the articles. And that was just one article. You're right. I can believe this case is like a novel. 100% this is a novel. But I just wanted to clear the pathway, just so people are on the same page, so we don't get any shocks when we come to the court case and people are on a different understanding. But thank you for giving more of that insight, Professor.
One of the, I went to, one of the good things that comes out of this case, it's good for legal students, those who are studying law.
Yep.
Because the case is, it's very interesting. And then they will have to study, even us too, who will look into all the evidence is submitted, and also those who were arguing against, and the rationale behind, both lawyers, from both sides of the aisle. And then, of course, that culminates into the final decision by the judge who is, So for me, as an academic, I look at it, this case will become one of the the most interesting assignment for the legal students, those who are studying law, not just here at USB, but in Vanuatu, but also in New Zealand, Australia, and the world.
I want to cross, yes. Thank you, Professor, on that. I just wanted to get that in because there's a lot of questions I want to ask you, and I'm just going to try and push through some questions because, we had a little bit of issues trying to get the phone sorted this morning, but I want to try and use up my time with you to get as much questions as I can. Look, last week broke that the box of chicken has gone up to 120. The price of living is a struggle in Samoa as it is in everywhere around the world, but $120 for a box, Professor, that's a very big price for, especially in Samoa. Is this the price control that you were talking and warning everyone about in your previous talks, Professor?
Well, that's probably one of the first assignments done by the newly appointed and the newly established, because this price control board was around during Dr. Salele's time in Ola Turepa. And now, they come in at the moment where cost of living, people are struggling. And so they come down with this 120 tala. And I looked into it and I said, oh my goodness, remember, what Observer exposed was that I think it was probably 52 or 51, either between 50 and 53 cents, US cents. That was
that's right.
The price, per pound. So per pound, because the United States is still using the pounds, And then they discovered later that that some importers bought at the price of about 30, I think, 30 cents.
Yeah.
So the disparity between those two. But if you convert those numbers, because when you calculate, you use what we call the CIF. It's the cost and insurance, and then of course the freight. So all of those combined together, then you should at least know, what you're going to levy, because we also have GST. At the moment, tariffs was phased out during, what we still remember of the World Trade Organization. So, but now it's slowly coming back because Donald Trump, has now reintroduced tariffication to all of the United States imported goods. So for us too, and at least now we're looking at. So the 120 tala, and I said, my gosh, I was wondering how they arrived at that number, because it will definitely, if you convert, let's say 51 or 52 cents, the exchange rate for here in Samoa, I think it's more than $2. It's between 240 and 250 Samoan tala per US. So that's quite high when you convert that, and you'll end up with that with the number. And 120. So when you set the equilibrium price, and I believe that number has gone up very high. It's well above the equilibrium price. So my fear about that it will become chicken. It's one of the most popular food for our farmers here. And so when the importers try to import, most of that chicken come from the United States. Maybe some from New Zealand, Australia, maybe other trading partners, but most of them come from the United States. And therefore, when we look at it, then you have the markup. So the producers or those who are now selling to the retailers, because those who all of those, they are also the retailers as well. And then they can play around with that leverage of the markup. It ends up that we, us, the consumers, will suffer the most. At the same time, it will affect the budget, the collection of revenue, because under the old system, where Dr. Tunep was around, that was left entirely to the forces of supply and demand. So whoever, if the demand is up, the market responds to if the supply is up, likewise. And then from there, that leaves to the consumers. If you want to buy it, then that's fine. If you don't, that depends on how much you have. But you can have other choices when you look at complements, and supplements, goods that are almost the same, like chicken. So if chicken is expensive, then you have to look at other meat, which can provide the same protein, but then at a lower cost. So it's interesting how this will go. I'm not sure whether the new board is still following from the old review. Yeah, whether there are only a couple, only a few of the goods that are in that category, such as chicken, sugar, flour, rice, and few other. But the rest of the goods and services, the market determines that for consumers, and that's during today, and then when that impediment was removed under the advice of World Bank, then the whole market was opened up to the forces of supply and demand. And I know that even went down very low because there was competition in a lot of these cheap. And there was also a concern from other consumers that the quality was also going down, but that not necessarily true, because at least because the level of income here is not the same. If you are a skillful worker, like you have a degree or a diploma or certificate, or even if you have a trade, there is a certain level that you will start, salary. But if you don't have that, then you become an unskillful worker. And so therefore, we come down to one of the most important part of our talk today, because it links, is the minimum wage. Because rumors say that the government is now going to raise from, I think, probably maybe 4 for 80 cents, depending on, because attitude price was 3.50, and then slowly move up. But they are now saying that the minimum wage would be $6. And again, it's the same principle that we apply to the distribution of wealth through the law of supply and demand. Because when you look at the wage rate and also the supply of labor, the labor force, it will, we will be able to know that. But given the new GDP that we have, gross domestic product that we have, which is about 3 billion, a little bit more. And then you divide that by 217,000, the population, then you'll come down to somewhere like 1,300 per capita. So that's the share of one person when we distribute, our wealth, based on GDP. And if you remove all of the holidays and even the weekends, then you can find out the working hours there. Then you use the 13,000, you divide by the working hours. And we should get at least a clear picture of where the minimum wage should sit. So at the current time, if we have all the right figures in, the minimum wage is a little bit over $6. If we use the right figures. So therefore, the $6 there, it may fall a little bit short of the equilibrium wage and labor, but that is where we are. Mind you, Mike, when Dr. Tudepa was around, there was a concern from the private sector about raising the minimum wage up to $5 because during Dr. Tudepa's time, the equilibrium wage rate went up to about $5. If you calculate using the 2 billion and then the 200,000 population. But they didn't go with that because of the concern with the private sector. So therefore, they remained at $3.50 and then slowly, which for me, that's fair enough. Because if you have a labor force, maybe 1 or 2, then that's fine. Unskillful. But if you go up to 5, even 10, then you start to feel your cash flow will be stretched. And if you go up to 50, 100, like other, even go all the way up to 200, 300, even 500, that's a lot, so it will have a huge impact on this. So therefore, it's a responsibility. Remember, minimum wage, there are some countries that don't use the minimum wage. Since minimum wage, this is basically, it's a government control policy. So we can either go with it or, forfeit it, But the rationale behind the minimum wage is to transfer wealth to the unskillful workers. That's the economic rationale, and that's fine because a lot of arguments are following. But the government has the final say. So in implementing the minimum wage, whether it's above the that exchange rate when you look at it, or below, it's important that they have that decision and make sure that decision will entice more labor to come into action. And not only that too, Mike, while we are on this topic, now the government has restricted the number of Samoans, the quota. They have now given a quota to those who are going on, the labor, these part-time jobs in New Zealand and Australia. I heard a lot of people are not happy with it, and because a lot of families benefited from, this very big scheme, that started under, Tudepa and continues on, at this very moment in time. But we should not put a cap on the flow of labor, because at the same time, there is more that comes in return. If you look at what, this migration of labor temporary from us, they contributed so much in terms of, of remittances that they remit back to the economy. And therefore, that money that comes from New Zealand, Australia, and even other countries has become a major driver behind pushing the growth of the economy in whatever sections, whatever areas of the economy. So it's not just Samoa, but it happens in other parts of the Pacific and the world too, And that's why, migration is very important. So, but the government Maori has made his stand that they are now going to limit, and with the raise now of $6, that's okay. But we'll see, because it does have an impact on what we call fiscal, fiscal policies, the revenue collection, and also the monetary policies, as we move forward. So the reason why, Mike, I took it, that road, it's because they all link to the price of or more. That that 220. Sorry, that 120. Yeah. So it's interesting what.
It's very interesting you say that, Professor. And there's many things like this that people are not happy with, that are showing up.
Yeah.
You just mentioned there with the workers being capped as being one of them. Still on this case, because I read an article from another, I'm not sure if it was the University of Samoa, but they had a debate. And, in this debate, they talked with they debated with retailers or people in the business world in Samoa. And this is the topic they were talking about. It's good that we talk about these issues because we need to have transparency. We need context so we can have an opinion. And I think this is where the government, as we said before, they lack in transparency. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is that did they have was it at the University of Samoa, this debate? Have you heard, Professor? Or I'm not sure if it was another school that did the debate.
I can't remember. I can't recall that. But often, from time to time, we have been asked by the public, and so each faculty. But since this issue is very pertinent to my faculty, faculty of business and entrepreneurship, so we often invite speakers from the government ministry and also the private sector to come and give papers on the issue, because this affects everybody.
Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting that we look at it because one thing while we are on this topic, even GDP per capita has increased and GDP as a whole, what we are experiencing literally, there is now the cap. The space between the rich and the poor is getting bigger. That's true. We are now seeing that the rich is getting more richer and the poor is getting more poor. And that has been a testament from the statistics. And so that's why it's very important that when we look into policies that drive the physical arm of the government in revenue collection, we make sure that we encourage the circulation of wealth. So minimum wage is one of those drivers to ensure that there is a transfer of wealth from government and even the those who are at the upper end of wealth, down to those who are regarded as low skillful workers, and that's good. Now and then now what we are now seeing, when government says there's a cap, they have now decided to put a limit to our workers who are going on this temporary working scheme, and it will have an impact. It will have an impact on the revenue, especially the remittances that come. And then if you decide to go that path, then we have to make sure that there will be more developments that could initiate internal growth. We're looking at endogenous growth using endogenous variables, so that we can be able to push the economy forward. But anyway, they've just started, and let's hope that this $1 million project will become that instrument to push the growth. Otherwise, that program will only become, it's sad that I say this, but as an economist, I'm more worried that it will end up being a welfare strive, which will, at the end of the day, it will make our people more dependent on the handouts, and that's not the purpose,
We're starting to see
because
it
when
now,
you give out a
yes.
lot of yeah,
Yeah.
when you give out a lot of millions to them, we expect that in return, from whatever uh, projects that have impact on within the 5 years, they should be fruitful within that space. But if at the end of the 5 years nothing is increasing, then we would be in a very, very bad situation because people are now demanding more, because this is the nature, and this is an experience from developed, least developing countries moving up to developing and then up to developed countries, and in most cases when socialism or socialistic thinking, where the government becomes the sole distributor of wealth, it ends up, all the promises that they made during campaigns, or whatever, when they come into power, they just couldn't fulfill those obligations. And so they end up trying to nationalize the resources. And through that nationalization, the outcome and those things, that's where communism was formed. And so the central agent of distribution is the government. And we know that the government cannot satisfy all the needs and wants of the people. And that's a lesson of history. So that's why, capitalism, countries in the West, including us, you see in Australia, adopted the free market. But once you impose, this, the reintroduction of this border, the price control board, you're interfering with the process of supply and demand, and it's not good. It's not good as we move forward. So overall, that's
Overall, Professor,
I hope you're getting.
I'm getting a good lessons from this, and I've done a lot of research as well with this in the economic side, and I've done videos on this, and I try and advise the other medias and also the government to try and change I call it the Balangi tactics, because it's something that we see here in Australia and New Zealand, and Professor, looking into the politics, you think Samoa is bad. I mean, our country here in Australia, because we have a big workforce, it's okay to kind of get away with it, but I can see, my opinion, what I can see the government, where they're trying to push towards, it's big business, trying to attract big businesses, which is good for big countries like Australia, got a big workforce. But for small countries, like that's why I say with the Balangi tactics, it has buses, it looks great online, politicians are saying all the right words for the voters to vote for them. But when it comes to them being in power, the promises are not fulfilled. And so, but when you look at the contracts and the big businesses that are making deals, as you said, Professor, the gap between the rich and the poor starts to increase to a larger scale. And Australia, for example, we got many resources, and I think a lot of Australians are probably not aware of this. We got many resources on how big Australia is, yet we don't get any benefits from it. And these are things that we don't hear about, us Australians. And so when I'm looking at it, because I'm trying to look for the stuff that's happening in Samoa, then I'm looking at our government, I'm like, oh my gosh, you think Samoa government bad? The Australian government, they have so much to answer for how much, and as you say, we look for examples around overseas for other governments. And other governments, they call us the lucky country, Australia, the lucky country. And other governments are looking at us like, and are giving the people their fair share of what their resources have. But coming back to us in Samoa, we're only a small country, yet we have campaigns now of cameras, lights, everything is in place. You see these stuff in Australia and New Zealand, but in Samoa, it's very weird, and that's why I'm trying to call it out and say, guys, I know the Fast Party looks great on camera, but the economic side behind them, I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but it's really looking bad. But that's just my opinion, Professor. Yeah.
Well, the reality is that because we live here, and someone's, and and it's just that even with myself, my children, they have put very high-paying incomes, and they still feel the pressure of the cost of living. So imagine those who are below us in terms of the wealth, and that we're just, I mean, constantly we have a Afualo, whether it's here in Polu, we go to Savai, and once if we go to Savai, then you can see this, with all of your extended families, they come whatever they can be able to contribute. And but for us who happen to have access to that wealth, so we'll make sure that we contribute more, so that we can carry the burden. You know what I mean? Um, Rather than you having a lot of wealth, and we don't want to substantiate, the burden of your other, extended families. And I think when we have policies, we make sure that we look at developments that wealth is being transferred from us, down to those who are at the lower end of the economic level, and that's what economics is all about.
Yeah.
Remember, you remember Mike? Um, the wars have never been fought. If you look at the world, the history.
Yeah.
There've never been fought over accounting or over science or whatever. Wars have been fought over over economic ideas. Because out of economics, social economics was born with communism, and then of course we have the free market, where neoclassical economics, like what we have in the West, and that struggle between these two is still continuing. And you'll find that if you look at Australia, New Zealand, and even the United States, even in the Pacific, there are still people who champion socialism. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of people who favor, killing without any due responsibility, because once you do, there has to be some responsibility that comes with it. And that means not just the recipients, but they should also at least produce something in return so that we can, that we live in harmony. But if you just give, and then the others will just receive, that's not good, we're not moving forward, and you end up with a lot of problems, And,
Yes.
and so we'll find that those who would want to come to be parliamentarians, they have, they want to go through that pathway of make sure that the government provides for all of them. It shouldn't be like that. There will always be welfare, programs from the government, from the treasury. But the whole idea for that is temporary. It shouldn't become a continuous dependence on those programs. At some time, you will be able to find a good and sustainable income for you, or even set up your own business, being an entrepreneur. And then we move forward in life. But we can't go on like that, although that not everybody, because hearing from my families in New Zealand, there's a lot of homeless, But if you look at the GDP, which is very, very sad, but being homeless is not, purely an act of, dysfunction or dysfunctional economies. No. A lot of places, being homeless is a choice. People, they love doing that. So it's their decision. But when government has policies, to go and work, they don't want to go and work. And I think when we look at societies, that's where we need to give them a good understanding that where we go, we will still facilitate assistance from government, but then at the same time, they need to contribute to society through whatever means, and then that we will live harmony. Otherwise, there is no peace.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Professor, on that. Um, I've got a there's a lot of, like, you talk about a lot of issues that are happening in Samoa there. Um, that your the economics is it's a big subject, and it's very important. Yes, I've done my research, and yes, they definitely have wars over economics. It's not over what someone said. It's all about the trade. What I'm looking at, it's all about who controls the waters, who controls the pathways. That's how these little wars happen with other countries. And this is the strength of HRPP that people are not aware of. The wharf that was going to come to Samoa. You see the HRPP bringing that wharf, if it was to be done, I think it will be a very big blessing for Samoans, to bring big businesses. It's in the middle of the Pacific. Cargo ships can go there and jobs will be made. It has a massive hub potential, and I could see the vision that was going to come out of it. But then the campaigning from the fast, they came and cancelled it. I heard they cancelled that wharf, and it's very important that we get. This is why I love to talk to you, Professor, because people don't understand how important it is to understand the economic side, and you can tell the fruits behind of this government at the moment in Samoa. The fruits are not as well looked as what it was when HRPP was in, and it started to tell. And some of these, I wanted to hit onto this district. You can start to see, like I'm seeing here, the committees, the teaching committees are not happy with the new system of having to move the money into the system of the district's money. So now the districts from the funding is now being supplied through that system. So that's one issue. But there seems to be a lot of people not happy about the district's funding at the moment, Professor. Is that true from your end?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I just heard it too. But see, let me just tell something about the background. When Hipa was the prime minister at the time, this is about more than 10 years ago, about, let's say, 15 or 20 years ago. The partnership with our donor partners, particularly New Zealand and Australia, they agreed that they would fund, the fees of the students from year one, prima one, year one up to year 11.
Yeah.
That was the system is seriously year 13. Now it's 12. So from year one up to year 10. Up to year 11 now.
Yep.
Now, and that was solely funded through, that development partnership with Australia and New Zealand. And for some time, and then after, when the project was matured, then the government absorbed that funding into the budget. But the disbursement of the fund was still managed by the education department. I know that because when I was minister. Sorry, when I was member of parliament. So I had to make sure that fund was given, equally, and not just equally, but also transparent. There's transparency to the school. So we only have at Salele, we only have one college, and that college was started when I was there. The final year, going out to Sasalasi, and we pushed for that. So finally they got it now, which is good. And then we have primary schools, and those primary schools are all under that scheme. But once the fund is over, the budget, government budget absorbed that. And then what happened, like I just said, it was managed by the education department. And although that there are what we call committee aula, they were the ones who work hand in hand with the principals and the teachers of whatever school to make sure that those funds are being used accordingly to those funds have been instituted for, and that happened for quite some time. And now the new government, now the fast one and now fast two, it didn't happen during FMA. When SUP, when fast one was at the ministerial seat, they still allowed the disbursement of funds through the same process like what Dr. Tsudepa did. And now I heard, as you were saying, that is now being diverted under the Fonfabai and the Fonfabai. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. From the budget plus the million, plus the 2 million. And I can hope that this will end up well.
Just with that, Professor.
The supervision of the fund under the Ministry of Education, is well understood, and they look after that. But now it's coming under the Fonofawai, and it makes you wonder what kind of development, because it seems that they are now going into manage this plus the 2 million tala, because this is on top of that.
Yeah.
The funds, which is in the budget. That's a lot of money, but you have to ask hardcore economic questions. What good will it come out of it? Because under the $2 million project, you need to make sure that within 1-2 years at least, after 2 years or maybe 3, then we should see some fruits, of whatever developments that the district will be able to impart on as we move forward. But this fund was specifically for the school fees of the students, of the children from year 1 up to year 11. I can't see any, there is no benefit that comes out of it. You're getting my point, Mike?
Yeah. To add on to that,
so it's
Professor.
interesting.
Professor, just to
Because,
add on,
there's a lot of sorry.
because I just wanted to clarify, just while you're on that topic, so this money that's got to be distributed now it's got to be under the Fonofawai, is that taking it away from the $2 million, or is that money being added on top of that? Because my understanding, it was taking out of it, so there's less money for the districts to use. Can you clarify that, please, Professor?
Yeah. When the budget was debated, that was never a part of the debate. The normal disbursement of that fund to pay for school fees from year 1 up to year 11 is still there in the more than $100 million Tala fund to the education department. And now the $2 million project is separate, it's different. So I don't know.
So that means, because I saw an article that said it,
Yeah, and that needs to be clarified, And if, the committee, if the school committees raise their voices against, that fund, they should. Because they were the ones who were responsible. Now, if it's now coming under the Fonofawai, the development of education is completely different, because you invest in them with the hope that once our children, once they go through the system and become, specialized in whatever area, this is the Potsalau, this is education. And then they come back and contribute by, applying their knowledge and the skills to whatever development project. And that's a norm, for any government. And the establishment of the fund, this million I didn't hear anything about going into education. I know for sure that what happened in last year when the first disbursement came under PMA, a lot of students who came to NUS who could not afford, and even USB, were benefited from the $1 million project, which is good,
Good,
in a
yeah.
way. But that is something outside of this fund that goes directly into year 1 up to year 11. So now it's coming under the fund of Hawaii. So that means they will also absorb the committee, the school committees, remember, and it's a mess,
Yeah, it is a mess.
it's a mess. And then my question as an economist, so how can we improve, literacy and numeracy rates? And then, of course, as you move forward, by, having them, and the management of the school committees, I hope there should be no clash between or amongst the villages, because the villages appoint their committees. I know this from my village in Salele. They have members who we, our council, village council, appointed, our members to be part of that, and like other villages too. So I don't know whether the government will also dictate this, by appointing those who are pro-fast, which is not. That's not right.
All right. It's not
That's
right.
not right. And being, a good government, you should be the government for all, and the funds should be dispersed for all. And then you select the very best quality, the highest quality person to take over the mentorship. Otherwise, and I hate to say that, it's just any Dick, Tom, and Harry, that can come in. So
It's a big topic.
But I have no idea, because the budget only says, the $1 million and $2 million. It never mentioned anything about absorbing this, this education development fund through the budget, which started from New Zealand and Australia, the funds that came through them.
Professor, same on this, to continue on this topic, because now it seems that because there's a lot of little issues now, the villages started to get more understanding of what's happening, which is a good thing. But then at the same time, it's sad to see because it's dividing villages now. Some now they have the power to cut off the money. I mean, this type of governance is very dictatorship, in my opinion. If you're not listening to if I feel like you're not listening to the protocols of what I'm putting out, well, I'm going to cut you off. If that was happening here in Australia and New Zealand, people will uprise about this. But I mean, and I know a lot of the diaspora, they probably can say to me, you're just trying to go whaleanga this new government. That's the what they say. They say, oh, you're trying to let the government run. But then how can you let them run when we're starting to see signs that the governance is not looking good? I mean, but it's coming back to what I'm saying, Professor. It's dividing villages now, and I'm not sure if this is exactly what you said. I don't think this is what you had planned with this system. I don't think it was meant to have division in villages. It's not meant is that right, Professor? When you were trying to put this together?
Yeah, well, the idea, the economic rationale and the social and economic rationale behind the $1 million and $2 million project, it's a good initiative, But the way I see it now, it's moving away from that, good initiative, and it's now being used as a tool to foster the growth. I hate to say this, foster the growth of the fast, right? And that's not right. It's not right. I am, the former chair of the Totua, and I know, because a lot of those issues, even the $1 million project, was our initiative. And whoever wants to dispute me, and I'm telling you that, because there was, fast never existed, but it was in our manifesto, even
Yeah.
because I keep all the record.
Mm.
And so my colleagues, who weren't showing the fast one, they took the idea with them. I said, that's fine, because if the tour was part of it, we would also, push for it. But that was not the way I saw it, because, economically speaking, I was looking at, that tangible growth that should come up, and therefore it comes with responsibility. But now, what we are now seeing, they had a big, they had big, all of those who support them, and that's not good,
It's not good at all.
There's the same with yours today, and I'm tomorrow, that's very true, and you cannot say that. But the structure, when we look at it, from me as an academic and as an economist, this is how communism was born. Once you made all of these, promises, when you came into power, you couldn't fulfill those. So the best thing for you is to nationalize. You centralize all of this. Now we are seeing that because this is centralization. You're getting my point?
Yes, I am.
And that's not good, because it would only lead to a stumbling block in terms of growth. It will hinder the growth, and that will eventually let. Now, they're saying that we are capping, those who who want to go on the temporary visa scheme, working visa scheme, and that's not good, You still have to give the freedom to them, because I see there's a huge excess of labor force here in Samoa. There's huge excess. And why stop? Why stop? And let them encourage it because they will come back. But the labor force, the excess labor force that we have with us, we need to focus on that, develop them properly. There are institutions around, and then invest. Put the money. Ask the investors, if not the government should. They can come and develop that. When we look at different sectors as well, even tourism.
Yeah.
So, it's a big debate, but that's where I am seeing on, because, that was never part of the debate, the budget debate, that this, fund will be absorbed. The school parts not, and I heard from one of my friends who is a chair in, one of these committees, we were interested in how much they're getting, they're getting paid. But it's just about 500 I said, wow, that's just for the allowance for every meeting, if I'm correct. I said, wow. So that means if the phone five has 1 or 2 meetings, then the chair would only get 1,000, with the taxes. And I said, how can this? Because when you set that threshold to cut off, you will find that there will be huge corruption. You're getting that.
Yes, and I'm happy we're hitting it.
Yeah. So when it's 500 allowance, for per meeting or whatever, per capita. So in order for you to make sure that you get, a huge portion of the pie, you have to, to put up maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings. Hey, we are humans, because it happens. So you end up, if there are 3 meetings a year or 4, you multiply that by 4 times 5. That's a lot of money. See, and then after that, and that's where monitoring of this, is very, very important. Because one thing that I think those who support FAST, for me, we are under the umbrella of the FAST now, and we fully support it. But one thing, I'm reminding them, this is not FAST money. This is not FAST money.
Yeah.
It's not money. It's not the government's money. Even when the HRBP was, it's not HRBP's money. It's the taxpayers. It's our money.
Yeah.
And for any, thoughtful leader will have to be seriously, think about that. So when you go out there and then you brag that this is government funds, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is PR.
That's not good look. That's very not. That's such a
It's not.
no.
This is not government's fund. Fund. It's the taxpayers' fund. Whoever government, it's not your fund. It's my money. It's your money. It's our money. And I think we have to make sure, because whenever I teach my students, up at 300, up to 400, 500, I always remind them, and always be a critical thinker. Don't hold your thoughts, because we need to, think strategically about them. That I critique will also lead to, good ideas. You're not doing it to go against them. Because now they think that we are going against them. No, you're not. We're simply giving them, another pathway of thinking, and also remind them, look, that's a path that will lead to, Christ gave a very, very interesting teaching on that. The road.
The roadshow. Yeah, talking about the roadshow, Professor. Yeah, there's been some talk about this. Still on the subject about the districts. The Prime Minister has come and said some stuff to say there's going to be this school payback scheme, $150 for every student, or I'm not sure clearly what that project is about, but it seems to be in the timing of campaigning for these new by-elections, these 2 seats that are up for grabs. And it seems like the timing of the Prime Minister announcing this just before the campaign that's going to be before the election next week, the by-election. Is this a weird thing? Because now he's backflipped on his what he said. He's backflipped on the $150 to be released after the campaign. Can you have what's your thought on this, Professor?
This is just the same as the decision that was supposed to be given out last Friday. It is now being deferred to next week. So we have a saying that, justice delayed is justice denied. Now, the Prime Minister has delayed the disbursement of those funds, according to him. He doesn't want to be viewed as, giving out those funds as part of the campaign. But hey, look, it's, he's saying that. We're not saying that. The public is not saying that. He's saying that. So that means he knows, this is how politics works, strategically. But honestly, as a genuine leader, why would you worry? Because what has already been stipulated and laid down, it's understood. No one will argue with the funds giving out during, the time of this by-elections. No one will argue it. But once you try to make good of something that is not real, then it's just the same as justice delayed is justice denied. And that is something that he has to wrestle. If I was the Prime Minister, I would just go ahead and keep the funds because they want the money. Although that was not part of of the manifesto, but they want the money now.
But that's another thing, Professor. As you just say there, it wasn't part of the manifesto. So that's my point. I'm trying to say, with this Balangi tactic, I'm used to this because it's so common here in Australia and New Zealand. But for it to be in Samoa, it's very strange that someone that says, and what you said, it's not part of the manifesto. So this 150 timing is such a strategic. It seems like calculating, in my words. It's a calculating move from the government for the Prime Minister to say this, and then to backtrack. It's almost like a guilty conscience a little bit for what he said. And is he trying to buy voters for Samoa, Professor?
Yeah. Those are the fruits of when you have that conscientious guilty. If your conscience is telling you, hey, it's not right the way But if you do it, don't worry, because the promise has already been given that they would receive. They are all waiting for it, and then all of a sudden, it comes out, well, you know, that because this might be viewed as a campaign. That's who cares about that?
But
Who cares? And we know that whether we give now or later, it's still but this will reflect strategically on the dirty politics that that is being engulfing our political arena nowadays. But don't worry, they
yeah,
there's there's a saying when they say that the only way to stop Dracula is to bring Dracula to the light.
yeah,
That famous historical, it made into movie, So, Dracula, when it's night, he goes out and drank the blood. But then when daylight comes, then he goes back. So drag him to the light, and then he will no longer.
I don't think much fast supporters will be happy to with that. But Professor, still hitting on this point. Even that, he's backflipped and he said, "I'm gonna wait until after to give you the money." As a voter, it's almost like you're trying to entice this, like, okay, I'm going to give you this money, but then, okay, hold up, I'll wait till the money, I'll wait, and then I'll give it to you after the election. It's like it's almost like a little bit like, if I'm a voter, I have to vote, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I should vote for the fast because I'm going to get this money, and if I don't vote for the fast, well, then I'm not going to get this money. And this is the thought process that I'm trying to share with the people, to say, this is dirty politics. This is stuff that you see here in Australia and New Zealand. You don't see this in Samoa. What's your thoughts on that, Professor?
Well, politics is politics, and people say, oh, politics is dirty. No, there is good politics and there is dirty politics. So those two exist, like the positive and negative charges, that law of physics.
Yeah.
Unlike charges, attract, but, unlike charges, they repel. So they have to exist, good and the bad. But then strategically, that's how politicians work, But when you come out and make a fool of yourself and try to fool us, we know that we're not fools. Like,
yeah. We're just sharing to the public.
Politics is very interesting.
Yeah, it's a big topic.
Yeah. So as long as the funds should come out anytime soon, once they finish the election, that the people should be receiving it. The public should be receiving their fair share as promised, by Laude and his government.
And I think that's where the key is for the media and people to talk about it, instead of, because I know the fast media in the diaspora outside of Samoa, they're doing it's almost like a little bit pushing too hard to kind of paint the picture to say, the government's, everything's okay. But then I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out, it doesn't seem like it's okay. But I just hope people understand that we're not trying to go for the government. We support the government, but we have to make these issues clear so people can understand.
I think, Mike, the argument is that they just don't want any rebuttal. When we do academic debates, even any other debates, they have to rebut. Or even if you are giving a speech or whatever, there is a time for questions. And through those questions, you can either support or you can either critique. You can say that. But we need to make sure that we are both there. the positive and the negative, to ensure that whoever is at the oar, steering the ship, is steering the ship towards the right direction. So there's nothing wrong, I mean, for a lot of my families, my friends, they're diehard supporters of the fast, and I just don't hate them, that's thicker than water, But it's it's interesting because when we share thinkings, thoughts, and ideas, then they will listen to. And we have responsibilities to not just our children, but also the future posterity of those who are yet to come. And that's why we make sure. And governments will come and go. That's for sure. But the role of the media, as the fourth estate, will always remain. And so therefore, those, the critics and those who come and praise, will always be there. And that's good. That's good, And if they cannot take the debate, then it's not good for them.
Professor, another thing as well I wanted to bring up with the by-election coming up. So this is another thing. I'm not sure if this is bad politics or dirty politics, but there seems to be, I'm not sure if my calculation's right, but there's 4 candidates for FAST in the Safata district versus 1 HRPP. I don't know, maybe it's like the Hunger Games. I'm not sure if this is like everyone has to battle, so who gets this position, and if you get the position, then you become the one that has control of the money. We've got 4 different members running for FAST under one flag. But then at the same time, when you think about it, it puts a disadvantage for the HRPP member, because all the families of these 3 or 4 other families, they've got to outweigh. Is this, I don't know if you're seeing it the same way, is this a normal thing? Because I think that's a little bit out of place, in my opinion, Professor.
I mean, strategically, when you try to reduce the risk, this is typical economic principle. If you want to hedge the risk, you have to increase your investments. You have to diversify your investments. You're getting my points.
Yep.
If you want to reduce the risk that you're involved with, then you have to diversify the investments. Whatever, different investments, and that is a standard, risk assessment in economics and finance. So if we use that principle towards these 4 or 5, I think, candidates from the FAST versus one candidate for HRPP, in terms of risk, they have now diversified that risk with the hope that diversification, one from this one from this one from this one, will reduce, the risk, but then at the same time enhance the probability of winning by taking away the votes from that one candidate. That one candidate. You following?
Yeah.
So if we look at probability too, if we use that mathematical rational, the larger, the better the chance that you have is that when you increase your portfolios, that means one of this. But if you put all of your eggs in one basket, your chances is almost as bad as, because it just doesn't come that way. So reducing that risk allows you to look at other options as well. Now, trying to make sense of that using the election, I think this should give the urge and probably the comfort to the HRPP to make sure that he holds and bring up all the voters so that he can make sure that he is going to win. Because a lot of this will be dispersing. Looking into those who are are campaigning against him. Some of them are from the same village. And so the whole idea for them is to remove those votes from him. My only advice to our, to the HRPP candidate, just focus and make sure that you don't lose out because you have a good chance of winning if you do your work, with the help of the families and even those who support the HRPP.
I think that's the power of Professor, that's the power of the media. I think that's where, to give the context, to give the full story, because a lot of people are not aware, and I said it's too late when they find out the truth, and that's why we're trying our best to kind of give this perspective, this thinking of how we're thinking, because I don't feel like it's a right thing that people, vote according to their emotions and what they think, whatever the fast is putting in front of them. Now, to your point of your family members supporting the fast, who wouldn't want to support the fast? Because when you look at fast as a person from outside, everything is perfect, Afualo, Professor. Everything is perfect. I'm talking about the cameras, the way the fast party come in. You're almost like, it's almost like an influencer coming in, or some famous actor coming to Samoa or The Rock. The way they come in, everyone's clapping, you can't make this up. I'm thinking, wow, yeah, of course. And all of us Samoans outside who don't really get into the politics of understanding what's happening, they think, oh, I like this. I don't see what the other Samoan parties are doing. And this is my point, Professor, and I know you can correct me if I'm wrong. When I look at Samoa today, it wasn't built off the back of campaigning like this. It was built of just hard work and dedication and honesty. And now the new government has come in, and people may disagree with me, but to me, they've come into power with the new age, the camera, the lights, the singing and using of the church ministers, and it's all perfect. But behind that, and I'm not trying to put them down, but behind that, I'm just trying to work with you can you share us the true story that's happening there? Because online, it's all perfect. I can't fault the government for that. 10%, 100% for what they're doing campaigning, but the economic side and what's happening in Samoa, I can't back that, because it seems like it's failing very badly in Samoa. Would you agree, Professor?
Yeah. Well, the inflation seems to be, lowering according to figures. But the reality is, if you go around shopping, it's very expensive, very expensive. But even when we measure inflation, there are certain goods that go into that basket of goods, that determine the consumer price index and so on. And so that is where we are. And then at the same time, we also need to be aware that that velocity, the circulation of money, it's very important. So from the exports viewpoint, we have very limited revenue earned from exports, although that, the sum. But the major revenue that we have is through the tourism industry, and then, of course, the remittances. And that is where, for all of the diaspora are residing outside, I always that you're doing something great for our people, especially for us who are staying home. So our function as what we call the custodians of the wealth of the nation, whoever governments has come in, we have to make sure that we look after, that generosity, if we are to really looking into it well, and then use that generosity to reproduce more developmental projects. Like when Tulepa was in power, they not only use that generosity, but they were also able to use a lot of funds, from donors to develop the infrastructure that we now have. Because I am telling you this. If it wasn't for that solid, um, economic push by Dr. Tulepa and HRPP, we won't be able to be at a good economic situation at the moment. Inflation is just part of everyday life as we move forward. But without that, we cannot achieve the $3 billion and so on and all these projects. So yes, it's important. So whoever comes now, it's Laodian's government. We make sure that we voice our concern. And if they don't hear, then we have every responsibility to make them hear. To make them hear, because if the ship sinks, it's okay if it sinks and only them will go with the ship. No, all of us will sink together.
Yes, that's right. That's so true.
All of it. That's the reality. So, but for a lot of people in Samoa who reside in Samoa, you'll be surprised. Like a lot of our people have dual citizenships, either New Zealand or Australia or even US. So if the ship is going to sink, they will be the first one to depart, to leave Samoa. And then we are left because I only have one citizen. It's only Samoan citizenship.
So we have to do our best to do it.
I make sure that the ship doesn't sink.
I hope it doesn't come to that, Professor. I really hope it doesn't come to that. Just my last question. Just a quick comment, Professor, because we've gone for a long time. I saw an article about we have a Penny Wong, which is one of our senators here in Australia. They're coming to talk to the Prime Minister about the cyberbullying. Now, I'm not sure what started this. Maybe the Prime Minister wants to have put a stop to the people online and stuff like that, which is a good thing. But we got one of the strongest laws, Professor, in the world, I would say, when it comes to free speech. But is this a concern? Because we have in our media, in our online presence at the moment, there's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of people that feel like they're okay to say things. Is this a good thing that we've got to move towards this direction, Professor?
Well, it's sad. It's sad. But these are all the costs of, technological advancement. And we knew from the start that once, the information age that we are now living, if there is no control on the AI, which is the artificial intelligence knowledge, that's what we're now facing, like Facebook and all others, there's no control over it unless, some countries have already put a cap, like I think probably Spain and they ban children from age 16 to access Facebook and other, once you are, over that age.
Yep.
We don't have such laws in Samoa. It seems that all the children know, once you were born, you have access to Facebook, accept that. So, it's something that we need to work on. I think if Penny Wong comes here, this is part of the security, the Pacific security, and this part of the Southern Hemisphere. Remember, we are under the United States. And if we cannot control the way information is being transferred from one medium to another medium, our other competitors can use that against us. For example, if we have a very established Chinese embassy, so to speak, there's nothing wrong. Now we have a very established, U.S. embassy and even other countries too. So these countries, they are basically at odds with each other. Whatever comes, to all these, because they are controlling the world. So this is one of the mirror into trying to understand what is happening so that we cannot, because once you allow, other very powerful medias, other countries to partake in our system, then they would access the information. Because for us as a democracy, we are, like New Zealand, Australia, it's part of us. No one can deny that. Even in the United States, it's a second home, and most of us, first home. So you see that there is that connection, and if there is any concern from Australia about this, there should be, even New Zealand, and we make sure, that, because of this migration from the islands to them, and this is the future of their labor force too. So if this is the kind of food that we migrate from here and then take that to Australia or New Zealand, we have to be very careful on that. And if anyone is coming here to discuss them, then for me, that's nothing wrong, That's good, It strengthens our partnership, as donors to help us, So, but that has, our police department has been working very hard on those. I know that when I was a member of parliament, the police started looking into all of the cyberbullying, and the laws and everything. So it's just a matter of strengthening and then make sure we know what our friends are. It's this information is very, very, very dangerous. So I've always advised my 300 level economic students and 500 postgrad. I always encourage them to access the chatbot GTP. Now I think it's the second version. I said, look, go, get a membership. I think that's free. It's good. There are other programs because you can access a lot of information, even YouTube and even Facebook and everything. And in that case, you are able to digest, what material that is relevant to, whatever you study. And then at the same time, it also gives you, it challenges the way you think and the way you look at things, And then from there, we make sure, because having a policy to restrict, the access of some of these, I think it will not help the growth of, the development. You see, if you look at China, China has been very strict. They, about the information, they censor a lot, But even if you, not just China, but others, even if you embark on that, you are absorbing a lot of revenue. A lot of revenue. You cannot contain the needs and wants, and the thoughts of the people. Because, you can be successful, at sometimes, but not all the time. So allow it. So if our people, our younger generations decide to migrate to Australia, New Zealand, even UK and the US, at least when they come, they are well versed with those risks and also the opportunities, the risk and the opportunities, AI, the information, the cyberbullying and all of that. So for me, it's a good. But even if it's being emphasized on cyberbullying, and I think Penny Wong would probably discuss some major security issues and even trade as well. Because you see, Australia is a major donor of our parliament. The house that we have, the parliamentary building that we have just completed, and then there's another complex coming up. I think it's close to completion. So all of that, the part of the fund came out of Australian assistance. The other development that is almost completing is the new markets, for the vendors in Fungale, it's, the bulk of the fund came from New Zealand, and then the other portion of the fund was paid by by us. So, but all of these projects, the parliamentary and also this market, marketing center, they were all initiatives under the HRPP, under to So I think people have to understand that. I mean, I'm not trying to, to badmouth or even, put negative ideas on others, no, this is history, this is facts that people need to understand. So whoever government that comes along, they have to continue on and move forward, You stand on the shoulders of others, and then you can move further. That's how, that's good governance.
That's right.
Transparency. Yeah. And I think, and that's why it's important that we understand this historical facts. And I think whilst we are on that, remember last week there was an issue about the churches, when we talk about Nafanu and all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, because I didn't read through, but someone said to me that there was a comment from one of our, about what I said about the first church,
Yep.
Yes. So the first official missionaries, white, came from London. That's 1830, and then 1835, Methodist. But 1828, the Methodist Church was already started, established, etc. That's a fact.
Okay.
That's a fact. It's something I would like to correct, because someone said to me, I said, it's all right, I'll look this up, and then I'll make sure that this colleague look this up. It's in the history of the Methodist Church, and I learned this when I was in primary school. If you go and Google the history of the Methodist Church in Samoa, then you'll see that the first Methodist church was established in 1828. But the missionaries from London came in 1830, and then 1835 missionaries for the Methodists, and so on. So that's just something that I want to correct what we are. This is the things of me.
Yeah, and that's good. Really, I love to hear people's feedback. And I mean, I encourage debates. I encourage to have people's opinions. I don't encourage people coming to swear and, say stop trying to, But I love to hear, it's good to hear these comments. And look, whether people go and do their studies, it's good for all of us. Just to add on to what you're saying, Professor, we've got an age restriction now, 16 years old now. You can't, if you're not 16, you're not allowed to go on social media and under. But I don't think the problem with the social media in the Samoan community is 16 years and younger. I think we have an issue with a lot of 60 and older or 50s and older in the Samoan communities, because the age limit is not, the problem we have is not 16 and under. The issue is with the people that are older, that are coming on here and swearing and saying some unkind words. And also, another thing to add on to what you're saying, the Pacific ABC, they put a story out about what's happening with the districts and how there's infighting that's happening, right? Which is, it's one of the first media to kind of really push it out there, what's really happening in Samoa. And the chaos, the commenting that was happening on this story, Professor, it was another level. And so if someone comments on this page, on this show, I leave the comments for everyone to have a look, because to me it doesn't affect me. But the ABC Pacific had struggled, and they started cancelling, deleting and blocking people from their page, to the point now the Pacific turned off the comments. And I said, wow, man, it shouldn't get to this stage. Just to add on to the cyber issue that we have in Samoa, it should never get to this stage. And I think debate and bringing up your understanding is good for all of us. So, like, I love how you
Yeah,
clarified
yeah,
that with what you said from last week. And so, yeah, we learn something new every
yeah.
week. But I think I want to end on that, Professor. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that so much. Your time. I'll let you say your last words if you've got anything to say. But thank you so much for your time, Professor.
Yeah, well, for me too, it's a journey that we have, this very special podcast in English. Because a lot of our, diaspora cannot understand Samoan. Although that when the way we teach, we bilingual, we use Samoan and then use English, at the same time. And it's important that for the diaspora, the Samoans, especially the sons and daughters, second, third, fourth generations, you need to learn your language. Samoan is a brilliant language, Samoan language. Right throughout my educational life, it was all done in English. I mean, this is heavy English all the way up to the doctoral level. But I kind of, think not lowly about Samoan language, but I kind of shy away from communicating. But then when I was bestowed, some chiefly titles and got involved, at the communication at a higher level, then I found, that is where the language, I finally had to sit down and look, very deeply at the heart and soul of the Samoan. It's a beautiful language, I tell you,
Yes.
Mike. It's a beautiful language, and you can start from the Bible, because reading the Bible, those are our forefathers who translated the Bible. For me, when I look at the translation, and also I look at the English version of those translations, it boggles my mind. About the knowledge that our forefathers had. This is many years ago, many months ago, that we're able to bring, that spiritual insight into the real language,
Yeah.
the Samoan language, and it's amazing, it's amazing. So to be well versed in English and Samoan or even any other language, I would encourage. And I think for New Zealand, they now have a special day for the Samoan language. I don't know about Australia, but I think sooner or later, because there are now more and more Samoans, migrating to Australia and also raising families, sooner or later, we'll have a voice, a strong voice on that. So on that note, Mike, thank you very much, for, and I also encourage you, don't be dismayed about, from the comments, of the media. That's the media in the social media. That's what social media. The good, that movie by Clint Eastwood. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you get all of those.
Definitely.
But it's good, it's information, But if you cannot absorb and digest them and make meaningful arguments out of it, then I think social media is not good. But it's it's a good avenue for everybody to commute. So hopefully, whatever Benny Wong will discuss with our Prime Minister, that's fine with me. But putting a cap to the age, I think that's another issue that we can talk about when, when. Yeah, on that note, Maro Lava, Mike, Maro Kiri, if I'm God bless you all our listeners and viewers, for this opportunity. We will see you again next week.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah.
Guys, we'll just go to a break, guys, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, for joining me, whoever is watching. I appreciate Professor Afualo's interview today. It was good insight to kind of find out a lot more what's happening in Samoa, because as you can see that the story started to come break in Samoa, that left, right, and centre. Some of this stuff that's a lot of people are unhappy about, but it seems like the the voices of the Samoans in Samoa are not being heard, and it's a big concern, and I think it's good for us to pressure the government to help us to find out, to help us get more transparency, more context on what their governance is doing to their people. I think that's the power of the media. So also the power of you guys that are supporting and commenting, the power of people that are messaging and commenting. You know, it gives the confidence for other people who are on the fence to kind of make up their mind, like, well, what other people are thinking. And so to think that everything's all happy in Samoa, it's far from it. And obviously this is a new show. We're starting to get more things unraveled in Samoa as each show goes on. And you know, I'm not trying to make this a show about negativity, but we have to call out stuff that needs to be called out. And I'm very surprised that not many people are calling out these types of topics that are happening in Samoa. For whatever reason, you know, like I can't just sit here and just not say anything. It needs to be said. And as I said, I've said, this is not about which party I support. It's not about that. This is about making sure the Samoans, the motherland, for all of us diaspora, can understand what's really happening over there. What can we do to support? How can we voice it up to the Samoans or family members that are there? How can we tell them, like, stop listening to what you're listening to inside these villages? Because, you know, technology here in outside of Samoa, it's, you know, it's very accessible. But in the villages in Samoa, you know, a lot of these people, they don't really have the access to Facebook. So I think it's, you know, it's good that we kind of get this context. I'm not trying to persuade anyone. It's just giving context, giving us more to the story so then we can make a better judgment. But when people are so confident and come in and they voice up their whatever they think, and they're not listening or trying to reason with what's happening or bring up points to debate, well then we just turn it, it's just a straight argument. It's not even a question. It's just a straight argument. And you know, I'm sure you guys see in the comments, there's a lot of comments that come through telling me and all this, having opinions about me. And I just laugh. I laugh, and I really feel sorry for these guys, because you got to understand the effort, especially these fake pages, the effort that these guys have to put in. You know, you got to go get an email address. You got to go verify it to a phone. These people that are hiding behind these fake pages, they do all of this just so they can just voice up negativity to the people. And I'm thinking, man, you have to be in a really low spot to kind of go to that effort to create a fake page and rant all your negativities towards another someone, when you can just come and just ask questions. Hopefully someone from the comment section will comment back and say, well, this is what our side of the story is, or maybe I can reply back. But I truly laugh. I seriously laugh at the comments that you guys are saying all these things, but I laugh at it because I'm thinking, you guys think your words hurt me. But, you know, like, for me, I'm all right. It doesn't faze me. I've gone through a lot of mental, I've gone through a lot of stuff to kind of like understand and mature. Because yes, you know, like, we've all gone through these types of little things in our life. But I feel like I've gone through a lot of emotional and mentalness to kind of understand my place in the world, that these words mean nothing, absolute nothing. I laugh at it. But in me saying that, that's for myself, that I can handle it. But not many people can handle that. And you can see the things that are happening. You can see this type of behavior, the effects that it has on our children and has on our sisters and our brothers. And some can't take it because they're really emotionally, you know, plays with their mind. Are they good enough? The self-worth, the embarrassment. These are the things that a lot of our brothers and sisters go through. And it's a serious topic that we need to, you know, be considerate. You know, I know you guys behind these fake pages, you might mean well, but try and understand, like, there's people out there that actually get affected by these words. And you might say you don't care, but it could be your sister, it could be your daughter, it could be your son, that are those people that are getting affected by it. So I think that's why we just got to be taking into consideration. I can handle it and I laugh about it, but there's some people that it plays with their mind, especially when the young kids are listening to it. Earlier on in the week, I seen an article about one of our most talented tennis players to come out, like one of the leading Samoans, this young woman to come out and to play tennis and to represent our country, proud, a proud Samoan brought up in Australia. And so then, like, to kind of see her come out with a statement like that, it really, these are the effects that has on some people, the bullying online. And the fake pages, you guys think that, like, even if you're behind a fake page, at least comment nicely or a point. If you can't do it with your own face. But just understand, like, you've seen the tennis player Destiny come out. If you look up the story, it's a sad story, and a good on her for standing up, and this is the reactions. When you poke someone so many times, they got to come out stronger, and they got to just say it for what it is. But as a Samoan, I wish that didn't happen to her. And so in our community, we have to stop this, this behavior, because I'm not sure it was the Samoan community that was affecting her as much. It was more of a racism issue that she was voicing out. But in saying that, we have to set the standards for us Samoans, to kind of have a behavior that is suitable for us and our kids to be on this platform. So keep that in mind when you're, your fake pages. Keep that in mind, because not only it shows that you're uneducated or you're just a little bit, crazy in the mind. Just be mindful to your peers, to your brothers and sisters that are out there, your Samoan brothers and sisters. Everyone's your brothers and sisters. So just wanted to touch on that and the bullying that's happening online. But thank you for all the comments that I like to hear what other people have got to say, and it's good to hear what they think and what their understanding is on certain topics in the government of Samoa, what's happening in Samoa. Another topic that I wanted to talk about was the hit and run conspiracy trial. Now, I did a video I did a reel about this and explaining the best that I could in a simplified way that we can understand what's the trial all about. And one of the things that I've learnt looking into this story is that people think that this trial was about Lealapule, the MP for HRPP. But to kind of do my own research, completely the media that's that's supporting the fast government. This is how powerful that they are to kind of twist the story to get people to listen to what they think is the true story. But I thought it was good that I simplified the story so then people can get a better understanding of what this court case is about. And as you can see in that short, that it is the trial of the century. In my opinion, it's the trial of the century. And looking into this, looking into it in the articles that were released, there's so much stuff that hasn't been told. Even in that short, I went light to not express to explain the story of Sam and what Sam's story against the police and the people that they're involved. And to give you more context on that, Sam's story that he's put out online, that everyone has pretty much heard about it in the Samoan, in the Samoan communities. This Sam's story, they brought so many witnesses to come and clarify, is Sam's story right? And as I said in the video, Tupuola, he has denied having any transaction with Sam. He knows Sam, but he denied having there was no money that was given to Tupuola for the cows that was given from Lealapule that Sam claimed. So he denied that. When they brought the police in for the phone that he allegedly gave to the police officer, the officer said he doesn't know anything about having a phone that was given by Sam. There's other mechanics in his story. He said that there was a mechanic that the Lealapule had gone to see, and this mechanic was brought in to witness as well, take the stand. Again, it was said that he has never seen Sam before. There's a lot of this, a lot of the story. I'm telling you, it's so condensed. This information that we're talking about this trial, you know, I can understand why it could be, why there is delays, because it's such a massive case. And but I did my best to try and convey the truth of and better understanding that it's not MP Lealapule that's under the scrutinize here, because he's been cleared. It's these 6 people that are involved, including the Prime Minister now. And also in that short, you will understand where the Prime Minister, now the Prime Minister is involved, could be involved in this case. How could be involved? How could the Prime Minister be involved in this case? I didn't know. I definitely didn't know how he was involved, because I was thinking, how is he involved in this? Like, there's no story linking him to it. So it wasn't until I did the research on the commissioner, and the commissioner had went on stand under oath in front of all of Samoa to say his story, and then that's where you can see in the short where he has said that Fepuleai, the Associate Minister of Police, was there asking him. You can watch the story in the reels, but when you see that, that's not my opinion. Just to kind of put on a record, it's not my opinion. I would never come online and say something like that. That is all from a news article, and I can share you that news article. You can watch it, you can read it and see in more detail, because there's a lot of stuff I did not say, and so you can see it for yourself and make your own judgment. And so you can better understand this case that's going to be called next week on the 27th. So, as I said also in that video, no one is above the law, and there's some concerns about the Prime Minister he is the Minister of Police, and he is also in control of 8 portfolios. And that's a big concern to a lot of people, to have control of so many departments. And if you could see on the video, you could see the departments that he's involved in. So I think that's the part that I'm trying to push out for everyone to get a better understanding of the case of this conspiracy hit and run. Now remember, it's conspiracy because it's claimed that they think it wasn't true. This is a setup, which is why Laoli is charged under these laws. If you can see his charges, fabricating evidence. These types of things are going to lengths to make a story up, to defame someone, to put them down. That's what these charges are about, just so you guys are clear on that. Because, the fast media are never going to say it to you, because they are supporting the government. But then it just goes to show, like, where's your values for the Samoan people? Because the Samoan people deserve to know the truth. Whether you're HRPP or fast, it's just the truth is the truth. And so I'm doing my best to kind of portray that. And guys, correct me, come and message me where I'm wrong. For you guys saying Samoan that I'm a little kid and I'm just cheeky and all this stuff. That's not a. How can I work with that? Like, your opinion, you think that I'm a little, you think I'm just a cheeky, like a smart ass that's just talking behind the camera. At least come up with something so I can work and try and conversate and debate with you a little bit. But when you guys come in with that attitude of calling me names, I'll have a laugh and I, make some jokes back. But coming back to this case, I think it's important that we know the truth. And, another thing as well, the MP that's been scrutinized, Lealapule, a lot of people think that he's done this whatever Sam has said. That's why another thing as well that's important that people are not realizing. There's someone behind there that is getting affected. Think about the bullying that this man has got, the MP Lealapule. People thinking that he's done something that's out of character, and his family as well, like his family getting affected. I mean, this is the negative things that are happening. These are the negative things that happen when context is not given to the people. And that's why I'm doing my best to kind of share the context for people to understand. Because I feel for Lealapule. Imagine someone else coming and just saying all this stuff about you and then trying to link you with all these people and then no evidence. And then you run away and don't come in to the police and do the right way and go to the police and tell the truth. You run away. To me, that's gutless. And for Sam to do, for Lealapule to be put under this scope since 2023, how sad is it that, you don't want this to happen to anyone else, and it's happening to Lealapule. And also stuff that they're saying about the former Prime Minister Tulepa, these stuff that are being said about, no proof at all, with all these people saying this stuff. But if you're questioning, if you've heard things, question it. Ask the question, But don't turn your mind into a thing where don't turn your mind to, oh no, I already made my mind up. Because when you do that, that's what you call, that's where you're not able to give space to learn and mature. You don't know everything, is my point I'm trying to say. I don't know everything. But the best way that we can know more is if we share information, But when we sit there on a pedestal and think that we know everything and go and yell out remarks to people on things you don't know and have not been verified, that's when we have an issue with our communities and issues with the communities that leads to bullying. Could you see what I mean about what I'm trying to do by giving you more stories, giving you more of the story so you guys can get more understanding to make a decision? I hope you guys can see that. What I'm trying to push out there is just purely for our Samoan community to better understand each other, to better work together as brothers and sisters. And I touched on it before with Destiny. We should be uplifting our Samoan people, especially these people that are inside the arena. She's under the spotlight. She's our best tennis player for Samoa. And hopefully there's more tennis players coming up. We've got other sports like golf. There's a lot of good golfers out there, but I can start to see some professional golfers coming through in not only Samoa, in Tonga and Fiji, but we need to push our Pacific people up. But first, we need to call out the BS that's going around, the misinformation that's being pushed out. And so I'm doing my best, and if you guys can help me by giving me more stories that I should be looking at, by all means, message or comment, and I'll have a look and I can pass it on to the leaders that I'm interviewing at the moment. But that's all I wanted to touch on for today. We have another show with the former Prime Minister, now the opposition leader, Honourable Dr. Tulepa. He is going to be on the show tomorrow, so hopefully he's available for us to question him about things that are happening in Samoa. And also last week we had some technical issues within our with our switcher, and so we weren't able to do the interview with the Honourable Tulepa, but hopefully this week everything runs smoothly, and then we can ask these tough questions that are happening in Samoa, so we can better understand for the betterment of all of Samoa. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and I wish you a good weekend, and God bless. See you tomorrow.
Long mafutanga pafana uatasi ai pangalea elefia manatua lua limote semana